We started last week really talking about processes and what's your process, what's a key process maybe that you could enhance or optimize or automate when it comes to using AI. And we're going to talk a lot more about that in the second half of today's webinar. Because if we think about this, if you have a broken process and you just add more speed to it, or if you just automate a broken process, it's still going to be broken. It still may give you the wrong results. It may give you the wrong output. And I've seen this over and over in my career, and Mike has seen it as well. We both worked in process improvement along the way in a previous life, in a previous job. And I've just seen it happen over and over again that people try to introduce technology or tools and they introduce them too soon or too early, or they introduce it to a broken process. And it really doesn't help that much. They get a lot lower rate of return on that new technology than if they would actually fix the process and then layered technology over top of it. And I can say that from personal experience because I was an IT director and worked in supply chain management, and there were all sorts of tools available to us, tons of technology available to us. However, the first step we always went through is trying to figure out how to improve the process so that the automation would actually pay big benefits after that. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. I'll send you guys a link to the assessment if you haven't done that yet, the Process First assessment, just kind of thinking through some key areas that you might want to figure out how to start with, and a key business process, what that would look like. There's 5 different areas in the assessment that you can take a look at your own business, your own organization. All right, so today we're going to talk about the AI toolbox. It is a bulging toolbox. There are a ton of tools in there, and it's getting more full every single day. So we'll talk about some of these today. There's no way this is going to be comprehensive. They're coming on the market faster than we can keep track of them at this point. But we'll talk about some essential categories that each one of us probably should take advantage of. We're also going to talk about some AI prompting, some tips for prompts that perform, how you can get better at prompting, because as we talked about last week, the old computer adage is still true for AI, garbage in, garbage out. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we'll talk about if you're going to do the mapping and if you're going to introduce AI, what do those workflows look like? And what are some tools that will help you do that? What does it look like in the context of an AI platform? I've already started playing around with these and putting some in place for myself and our business. And then really thinking through how we can best use these for some of our clients that have real needs around some of these workflows. And then talk about maybe just some suggestions for you, like what are your next steps? How do you continue to learn? What parts of this make sense for you? What parts can you take out of this workshop and start to really implement in your own life? That could be for your own personal work and your own personal productivity. And it could be something much broader for your team or for your entire organization. Okay. So what I've done is I've broken it kind of into 3 categories that I'll talk about today. The first one I call generative AI. That's kind of a name that has been created for this category. This is that, and everybody remembers, right? For the first time you signed on to ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or Gemini or one of those, right? Like you signed in and you like gave it a request or you ask it something, and suddenly like all this stuff just starts coming back on the screen. It's got like headings and it's got paragraphs and it's like it's talking to you and it's asking you questions. Like we all remember that first moment, right? Like when you type that in, you're like, oh my goodness, like my computer is talking back to me. It's helping me in a brand new way that's never done before. That's generative. It's generating content for you. It's generating paragraphs of information. It's generating images. It's generating video. It now can generate video with sound and with people talking. It's just incredible how fast this is moving. That's what we're calling generative AI. So I give it a request, and then the computer with its AI-enabled engine or system gives me back content. Okay, it gives me back a plan. It gives me back a document. It gives me back a table. It gives me back a graph, a picture, all of that. The second part that we'll talk just a little bit at the end, because it can be a whole webinar all of it on its own, is the automation platforms. So there are now software developers and companies and startups that are starting to build platforms that allow you to connect multiple systems together, have them share data in a common language or a common format, and then to trigger actions in those other platforms. I started using this about a year ago for some of ours. I had 2, 3 different systems, and I wanted to share a customer name or client name across all of those and make sure they were all synced up. It just happens automatically now with an automation that we set up about a year ago. And then AI agents. This is really the new one. This is the hot buzzword for this year. Is you'll hear the words AI agents, you'll hear swarms of agents, you'll hear agentic systems. That just means there are small agents. They're almost like little small mini bots inside of a system, and these are actually processing information and doing things along the workflow. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. If I get time, I'll flip into a couple of sites that I've already started using and show you what those look like. All right, so let's jump right into generative AI. And if you guys want to pop in the chat and say, yeah, if I use this one and this one, or this is my favorite one, or I use it for this and that, then feel free to do so. You can share that out and we'll go back and compare notes. But so generative AI for text, for documents, for creating project plans, for doing brainstorming. These are the heavy hitters in the market right now. There's others coming on every day of various sizes and capabilities. OpenAI is the organization that has ChatGPT. A lot of us are very familiar with that. It's kind of the first one to burst onto the scene in late 2022. Claude by Anthropic. I like this one, use it a lot. Have paid versions to both of those. Gemini, Google has finally gotten their act together and they are coming out with tools in mass. Like they're not just introducing an AI system, they're introducing a platform of AI tools. And you'll see some of them pop up on every one of the categories we talk about. Like Google has gone all in and they have to, right? Their business model is changing. Just heard last week that Google searches are down by 35% since last year at this time. 35%. And that's a huge part of their business too, is right, generating search and generating those little ads. A worse statistic is 55% of people do not click anything, any links on that page. In fact, you'll notice now when you go to Google, they've started putting that little AI summary at the top. They're trying to figure out how to bridge the gap. Like we'll show you the website you can click into, but if you want just a summary or if you want us to do some thinking for you or summarizing for you, we'll put it here in the very top. Those guys are really scrambling and trying to figure out like what's their next big play for revenue, because their ad revenue is getting eaten up just because people are migrating away from those searches. So they're doing a great job right now. Grok is the one from X.com that has come out of that ecosystem, and the money that's being spent there, the context and the data training that's being done there, it is getting really good, really quick, and performs really well. Copilot is Microsoft's product. Microsoft is actually a majority of investor in OpenAI, and so they share some technology there. It'd be interesting to see what happens to that when OpenAI splits off and Microsoft still has a big part of it. That'll be an interesting thing in the news, I'm sure, in the next year or two. Copilot's really good. What you're going to see, and you're already seeing, if you use Microsoft 365 and you start to type a Word document, you now see that little Copilot button on the page. It will actually help you write your document right there on the page. You can click that button, you can ask it questions, you can chat with it. I think this is an advantage that Microsoft has is they can just take their AI technology and plug it into every one of their apps. And I think increasingly that's what we'll see, is we'll see that you're not using the AI specifically, you're using apps, and underneath that are these AI engines that are helping generate all the content for you. Two others that have burst onto the scene just this year, these are Chinese companies, and Manus took it one step further. It's not just you're chatting with the AI engine, it'll actually do things for you. You can say, book an airline ticket, and it'll go to the site you tell it to, it'll search the options, it'll use your credit card stored on file, and it'll actually book the flight for you. like like this goes to a whole other level. And DeepSeek burst onto the scene just because they put together an AI engine for less than $10 million when some of these others have spent over $1 billion. And it's really fast, and it does a ton of research. So researching, finding information, most of these are now plugged into the web. In the early days, they were still using old data because they were training and trying to get them up to speed. But now all of these have direct connections to the internet and can actually do searches for you. Depending on what you ask it to do, sometimes they still hallucinate. They'll make up information or make connections or leave off information that may be key. So you still have to go behind and verify, but it's getting much, much better very, very quickly. Some of the popular use cases, drafting an email, cleaning up a email draft, putting together content, writing proposals, any sort of document that you're putting together. And then you can train it. You can train it to sound more like you, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the custom GPTs. Data analysis and summaries. I've got to where I use this a lot more. If you've got a ton of information, just take that document, drop it in, ask it to do a summary or an executive summary, or ask it to find certain elements that you're looking for, or to break it into the themes. Like whatever your request you make of sorting through a ton of information, it'll do it so fast. Now, it doesn't think about it the way maybe you will think about it. It doesn't see everything that maybe a human being would, or you have a different context than what it does. So you still have to play around with it to get it to be the right thing, or good content, but it'll take a stab at it very, very quickly. Okay. All right, so the next one, research. So if you're going to look at some research tools, the ones I like are Perplexity. I use Perplexity like all the time when it comes to research because they built that platform specifically for that, and it does a great job. But you'll also notice that even like I've got a little snapshot of Claude here, a lot of them will now have the research button. And what that research button is doing is it triggers behind the scenes a series of agents that will then take your request and imagine if I had 10 people in the room here that could help me do research, and I said, okay, person number one, I want you to work on this aspect. Person number two, I want you to work on this aspect. Person number three, I want you to work on this aspect. And each of those 10 people went out and did their research independently, and then they bring it back, and then I could look at all of it and assemble it into one document. That's what the research function does. It assigns it out to different agents, and these agents all go to work on accumulating that research, and then it brings it back and forms a document for you. If you do the deep research function like in ChatGPT or Claude, it sometimes takes a lot longer because there's a lot of little agents running behind the scenes. It's not going to be instant because it's doing deep research. If you just ask a simple question like, how many times have the Knicks won the championship? Like it'll find that because it can just scrape data that's already out there. But if I really want to do like a market analysis for a particular industry and a particular type of service or product, and I want to go much broader and deeper, then it's going to take a little while for that to happen. You notice also there are different models within each one of these LLMs. You can click and find, and you can do the research on this and find out which ones are best, but you click that little drop down. There's some of these models that are better for certain cases or certain uses. So, one may be better at research. One may be better at writing. One may be better at reasoning or thinking or brainstorming. And so if you have a model that you like, if you like Claude, and you say, man, it just writes good and I understand it and it seems like it gives me good results, go do a little bit of research and say, what's the difference between 3.5 and 3.7 and 4.0? Because there are differences. There are some differences. And so you can choose the right model of that LLM or that AI engine to generate the best results for you. Okay, moving along. Images and voice. This one is this is the one that just blows me away. Like if you had a conversation with Mike right now, he would tell you that like it seems like every couple of days I come in and say, man, have you seen this? Have you seen this? It's unbelievable what's happening with images and with video, especially with Google's Veo 3. It's it's tremendous what is happening. It's really hard to tell a difference between what's being generated and what's a real life video clip. Even to background noise, to multiple people in the scene, people walking by. Like, just go do a Google search and find some Veo 3 examples. Unbelievable. Some of the ones that do a really good job with imaging, Canva has started to build in a lot of AI generation within theirs. OpenAI's tool is DALL-E. So if you go to ChatGPT and you say, create me an image, or you hit the create image button and tell it the image you want to create, they actually have a different program, a different software application called DALL-E that actually is generating those images. Another big one, and I think I left it off of here, is Midjourney. Midjourney kind of cut their teeth on being one of the very first ones to come up with image generation, and it just kind of blew everybody away. I remember showing it to Mike, and we put in some prompts for the very first time, and it started spitting those images back, and it's been about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it was hard to imagine. Gemini with Google, they have an engine that generates images called Imagen. So if you're using the Google Suite, if you're a paid Google customer and you're using the Google Suite already, Gemini is going to be your LLM, and then Imagen is going to help generate images for you, and then Google Veo 3, which is at their premium price point, it'll generate video clips like amazing. And then of course Adobe has a lot of AI built into their platform already. So if you're on their suite, if you've paid for an Adobe suite of products, then of course Firefly is going to be theirs, and it's really good too. I mean, the Adobe, they're a premium software company. Ideogram does a lot better job with text. I know some of the early ones like DALL-E and some of the others, they didn't really generate the text the right way. Like it looked like characters from another language or something, or they're misshapen. It's gotten a lot better, and Ideogram does a great job of that. And actually some of the images in this presentation were created through Ideogram. Voice generation, this is one I've just started to play with recently. In fact, I use 11 Labs to clone my own voice that I'm going to use for some podcasting and for some other type of uses. It's pretty incredible what's available with voice now. There are voice agents, there are customer service, there are agents that are answering calls using voice, and you can't really tell the difference. I've watched some of the demos, I've heard some of them for myself, and they're getting really good very, very quickly, and to where you can have a conversation with it and it can actually answer. I don't know if any of you have used the voice mode in one of these platforms. So if you go to Claude, or if you go to ChatGPT or one of the others and turn on voice mode and talk to it and let it talk back to you. I did that on a walk the other day. I was taking a walk through my neighborhood and I had this idea, and so I popped into it and I started giving it the prompt and talking to it, had my earbud in, it started talking back to me. It would read to me what it came up with. Amazing, right? What's happening with voice on this front is pretty amazing. So all right, assistance with meetings. Okay, so if you're in an environment where you have lots of meetings, or had to prepare for meetings, or have meetings with customers, clients, or somebody else, on the left side here you see some that really help you with note taking. So it'll listen, it'll transcribe the actual words said. So here, built on the Zoom platform, there's tools built into it, but I've used Otter AI. Very familiar with Fathom. I've known people that use it, and it's one of the best out there. Mike and I have started to use Notion to kind of consolidate documents and templates, and starting to put more stuff into a shared Notion database where we have kind of a common place. I just did a call earlier today and clicked on the meeting button, and it recorded the meeting and came back with a summary, gave me a summary of the whole meeting as well as my next steps. That's really freeing. When you don't have to take notes anymore, you can just let it listen and transcribe it for you, and then give you a summary that allows you to be present in the meeting, and it's huge. And then plus, somebody doesn't have to type up the notes and send them out to everybody. You just send the document. Like, it doesn't take you, it saves so much time. Slide generation. This is one I've just started to use. In fact, this past week's presentation and this presentation today was all created with AI. I use Gamma, and I just give it my outline, a few prompts for what I want it to look like, and it just goes to building slides. And then you just go back and tweak and put in specific images or change words if you want to. You can even have it build slides with the AI tool that's inside Gamma. So I can click a button and say, create a slide for me that talks about prompting and how important it is. It'll create it for you. It'll put the graphics on there. It'll do everything. Beautiful AI is another really good one. They keep a lot of it, like you can't export as much and you can't take it out into PowerPoint or Keynote or Google Slides as easy. They want you to stay on their platform. So to me, it's a little bit more restrictive, but they do a beautiful job. And of course, Canva. Canva does all sorts of documents and slides. Not so much enabled with AI, like straight up AI, but there's AI underneath the covers that you can use with that one as well. But yeah, I'm using more and more of this, especially if you hone in on a style or you get a style that you like. It'll create presentations for you just from an outline. It'll build your whole slide deck just in a minute or two. And the list just keeps on growing. Found this the other day from one of the guys I follow, and I've looked at some of his stuff on X.com. And there's a ton of guys there who are just on the cutting edge. I follow them and follow what they're coming up with all the time. I mean, these are just a few of the categories. There's even more than that, and there's even more tools than these in each one of these categories. So if you're generating text or images or videos or audio or chatbots or presentations, design, copywriting, data analysis, like there are tools in every one of these categories. So, find out what you do the most of, what's the bulk of your day, or what's the 2 or 3 types of tasks you do the most of, and then go to one of these categories and start looking for tools inside of those. Now, some of these tools are going to use those major engines behind them. So it's going to call out to ChatGPT or it's going to call out to Claude and give it a request. But the software that's built on top of it just gives that request more context and helps guide you through it, and it's going to use the engine on the back side of it. But yeah, I would just encourage you, like, you figure out what you do the most of, and then find something on here that is a tool that really helps you create better content and to process more and to be more productive in whatever area that you have responsibilities. All right, so let's shift gears and talk about prompts just a little bit. I just saw a stat just this past week that the average prompt that someone puts into one of these LLMs or one of these AI engines is about 9 words long. And that's a good place to start. Just put in a simple request and see what happens. But if you're going to get a really good, high quality result, it's going to have to be a lot more detailed than that. There are some formulas. I've been playing around with some formulas. I put them on the board here, and I've been studying and watching and learning this. I would say that very first one, they're establishing context, is incredibly important for whatever platform you're using, whether you're using, Gemini or Grok or ChatGPT or Claude, doesn't matter which one. It really has to have background. And if you think about this, if I had an employee that was working for me, somebody's sitting at the table here and I was going to give them an assignment, if I walked over and said, create me a marketing plan, they could do it, right? They could come up with an outline for a marketing plan, but it'd be pretty generic, right? Every time I start to add context to my prompt, I start to get better and more exact responses. Now, after you've been on one of the paid platforms for a while, if you're a paying customer, they have memory function now, and so it'll start to remember things about you. And if you want to do something different, then you got to go up there and kind of choose to do an anonymous chat or do something kind of off, in a different chat or a different series, because it's learning everything about you. So if you put your whole life in there, which I don't encourage you to do, especially not like private data, but if you put all that in there, it's going to memorize and it's going to learn everything about you, and it'll start to weave that into everything. And in some cases, you might not want it to weave everything into it, right? You want it to be purely business focused. And so if I weave in a bunch of personal stuff, it's going to start to seep into that business stuff. And so keeping those walled off or separate is important. But the context, and if you want the context to be strictly business, tell it. This is strictly a business output that I want from you. This is strictly a business thing. Don't consider anything of my personal life. Make it, like you can give it the restraints, you can give it the parameters that you want it to have. Tell it who you are, what you're trying to accomplish. Also, tell the AI what role you want it to play. I don't think I ever do a prompt that I don't tell it what role I want it to play. I need you to be a marketing expert speaking to small business owners. I need you to be a data analysis expert skilled in reading spreadsheets. I need you to be an expert CFO and to read this report and give me the highlights. Like, tell it what role you want it to play because that establishes context. It knows what body of expertise to draw upon in order to give you that answer. Context is key. Specifying the output. Do you want it bullet points? Do you want it in tables? Do you want charts? Do you want an executive summary with a detailed list after that? Tell it exactly what you want. I want this in this format. Okay. Provide examples. Hey, one writer that I like is this writer. Write it in that style. Or I like the format of reports that come from McKinsey. So use a McKinsey format. Right? Like you give it some examples of something that you like, it'll go find it. You can give it a web address, you can give it a brand name. Like give it examples of what you expect, and it'll go to work to generate those. And then lastly, just keep iterating, refining. It'll ask you questions. Would you like anything else? Would you like me now to do this? Like you can tell it, no, stop, go back. That was not good. Try again. I thought you could do better than that. like if you tell it that, it goes to work even harder to try to generate the right information for you. Custom GPTs, I would encourage you just to go play with custom GPTs if you're on the OpenAI ChatGPT platform. You can configure those to do the same task over and over and over again the same way, or to write the same way. So like I have one that's just for content generation for this one part of my business. I put in a bunch of parameters, a bunch of examples, a bunch of backup documents. And then when I hop into that custom GPT and say, do this, it already has all the context already built in. It can do it, like repetitively over and over again. You can even share these too. Like I shared it with my marketing assistant. She now uses my custom GPT to write marketing material that sounds like my voice. Okay. And then projects are just a way to organize. Like I have this one here for the giant content that we create and put out there. I load it up with documents, like it has 12 files in here. It has a bunch of instructions, and I have different chats in here. It always pulls from that body of knowledge in order to create all of the stuff that's in every one of those particular chats. Okay. Last two things I'll cover very quickly is just automation and agents. Automation platforms, there's several of these out there that are less AI enabled that are kind of easy to get started with. Zapier is like, they're the biggest one out there. I use them. I've got 2 or 3 systems that plug in and use Zapier to transfer and move data automatically. It just gets triggered and then like it sends data to the next application. You can set all those up to happen automatically. It even reads my email. So when I get a 5 Voices assessment in, it reads my email, it sees it, strips out the name, puts it into my CRM, does it automatically. Like I don't even have to send anything or do anything. Like it just happens automatically. AI agents, I talked a little bit about that. This is the way of the future where there's going to be certain tasks. You just give it to the agent and the agent just does it. And it does it anytime you need it to without fail. And the business impact is just, we're going to be able to scale up and do more than we ever have before. So here's just a little bit of a roadmap. If I was going to get started with this, here's kind of where I would start. Just learn the Gen AI tools first. Right, get in there, play, have them create something for you, create content, create images, video, whatever. And then really start to dial in your prompting. Okay, longer prompts. A little hack is ask it to help you write the prompt. It'll write the prompt for you. Or write the prompt in one of them and then take that prompt to a different LLM and give it the prompt. It's amazing what it will do. And then explore some sort of simple automation. Copilot, Microsoft now has Copilot built in. I played around with it just this past week. Amazing. Like it started doing stuff very quickly for me because it's like we're on Microsoft. We have Microsoft products and they're all linked together plus about 10,000 other applications. I mean, it's amazing. Like it's built into Microsoft with Copilot. And then if you're a really techie or if you're a real nerd, like go explore some agent platforms. Lindy, Make, N8N, those are the three biggest ones, probably the best ones that I've used. I've spent a lot of time in Lindy and I've spent a lot of time in N8N. Um, they're a little bit more technical because you got to have some technical expertise to be able to move files and data around. But man, when you start to understand what's actually possible, that things can get triggered automatically and happen automatically without you having to be involved, like a whole new world of possibilities opens up, and I know it has for me. All right, so that's kind of the roadmap I would go through. And just remember, find yourself a process and say, let's map out the process. In fact, I don't know if you guys can see it, but on the table here behind me, Mike and I just did this for our business recently and came up with the 5 core processes for our business. Have started mapping those out so we can figure out where in here can we use AI even more? Where can we make it go faster? How can we make it automated so that we don't have to be involved every step of the way? Choose a process, choose a tool, start figuring out how you can use that tool at certain places along the way, and then start to measure your results. Last but not least, if you're kind of want to bounce some ideas, or if you just want some opinions, or if you want to schedule a meeting to say, hey, how would this work for us, or what would that process look like, we'd love to have that talk with you. We're going to start process first. Like I said before, we want to make sure your process is the right process, that it has the right steps in there. Once I know that, and once we've got that laid out, that we start working to improve it, and then eventually to automate it and augment it with AI. And I really think that's the best approach. I'm seeing more and more of that in the marketplace today. It's not purely a technology solution, it's technology enabling us to do the things that we do and just do them better, more efficiently, and more effectively.